life in a couple of weeks' time there at the Brickyard at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Cup over there. But now we're getting set for the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, the fourth round of their series. We saw them in Western Australia a few months ago now, but some races at Phillip Island in the recent past. And Garth Tander's alongside me, no stranger to GT competition. Looking forward to this 1 hour race. Qualifying held yesterday, and a real surprise to see Liam Talbot on the pole for this one.
Yeah, that's right. So the start of race one, it's the bronze or the amateur drivers that are responsible for qualifying in qualifying one. So this is the lap time that they set, and Liam Talbot, one of the real fast amateur or bronze drivers. That the FIA or International Motorsport have different gradings of drivers: bronze, silver, gold and platinum, and bronze being more for the amateur gentleman drivers. And Liam Talbot, one of the real guns, and Yash Shaheen will line up on the front row with him, who's also widely regarded as one of the fastest bronze drivers in the world. Once
been a battle between Porsche, between Mercedes and Audi. Porsche snuck back in for a victory. In fact, their first one this year in Western Australia was the first one since 2018 at this venue, with Liam Talbot behind the wheel. And of course, the first time we've been here in GT form since 2018 under the SRO organisation, which brings us up onto international spec. There's GT World Challenges right across the world now, and the Australian scene getting busier every round.
That's correct, and that's an important point that you make there, Matt, that these cars are the exact same cars that you'll see on the racetrack in Germany or Italy or in Asia or anywhere around the world. So same level of race car, same specification. And it's a great opportunity for international drivers, or for our drivers, to go and drive anywhere else in the world.
Further bolsters the Bathurst 12 Hour, which is getting bigger each year at Mount Panorama, just the other side of the Blue Mountains. That is your grid, 18 cars. We've lost one or two since qualifying yesterday. But looking forward to this. We've got the Pro-Am, the AM, Trophy and GT4 class in here with Mark Griffith, the sole car in that field to make their way around. Now, the clock has commenced counting down. We don't do that next time by. It starts from the moment they leave for the formation lap. Pit stop window between 25 and 35-minute mark there. The minimum pit stop time for this one is 98 seconds, but if you're new to GT World Challenge competition, there is success penalties that have carried over from the previous round at Phillip Island.
Yeah, that's right. So wherever if you finish inside the top three in the previous round, you get time added to your pit stop. So if you win the race, you get an additional 15 seconds added to your pit stop, 10 seconds added if you finish second, and 5 seconds if you finish third. So as you said, Matt, success penalty, and that's designed to keep the championship nice and tight. So there'll be cars in the pit lane for what does feel like a very long time. But then generally at the end of the 1 hour, the whole race just tightens right back up again. And quite often you see the race resolved in the last lap of a 60-minute race.
And there's harsh penalties. If you're out by 1 second, it can cost you a drive-through penalty, and that will kill your chances of performance and perhaps snagging those all-important points. Maxi Hoffa leads this series coming into the round, and is kind of Audi's gun driver, isn't he, across the world? He gets to drive him anywhere. On call, let's go to Sydney. On call, let's go to Monza next weekend. He lives the dream, doesn't he? But for now, Talbot and Shaheen ready to set this field of 18 around this Sydney Motorsport Park venue. Got to say, great crowd here on a Saturday afternoon. Great conditions to take in some car racing. There's the field line up, and away we go here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And as predicted, Talbot sweeps across to take the lead with 2 and 3 wide through the middle on this opening lap. But Talbot will be setting out here to get as much margin as possible.
Great start by Talbot. Yash Shaheen slides into second spot. Jeff Emery aboard the second Audi into third, and there's the 288 run Mercedes in fourth or fifth. They're arguing through turns 2 and now into turn 3. Saw Brad Schumacher very wide the exit of 1, and then there's one deep in the pack. The 48, that's Justin McMillan. A bit of a moment, the exit of 2. There's Schumacher up the inside into turn 4. That's a popular passing spot. Sergio Perez able to stay up the inside. He is contact, and contact continues. Now Schumacher, even the short back and sides, run wide at the exit of 5. And then who's that? Is it Ross Palakis up the inside?
It is.
Who's sharing the car with Jaden Ojeda. So plenty of excitement in the mid-pack at the start of this one.
Now, if you're wondering why they're going so hard here on the first lap, there's some drivers here that need to get a big time straight out here to not lose that all back in the pit stop. There's disparity somewhere here, 15 seconds in some of these pit stops.
Oh, no, there's one around, is it? Oh, and more contact. So that was the 47, Theo Konduras, into the back of Palakis, Ashamati in there in that blue Audi. So the action continues on this first lap, Matt, and you're right. Everyone's trying to get a bit of track position early because it's important. You don't actually, the way to treat these races are, you're not racing the other cars on track, you're racing the stopwatch. And you've got your own pit stop time, and you've got to maximise your track position so that your penalty effectively is negated in the mid part of the race. So I've always thought that you try and race the stopwatch, not race the cars. These guys didn't quite get the memo here. Sergio Perez up the inside of Brad Schumacher at turn 5, runs Schumacher wide, then Palakis gets a great run off 5 and gets up the inside, but that puts him out high and wide by the time we get around here to the exit of 8. And just contact, tit for tat there, if you don't mind, between Koundouris and Palakis.
Straightened him up really at the end there.
But you can't do that in GT cars. They don't like it. One, it costs a lot of money. And two, you can do damage. So here's Palakis running wide. And I wouldn't mind betting there's some steering damage before those aerial antics. And now running the car through the grass on the exit of turn 1. There's a heap of bodywork damage. Have a look at that side skirt. So a lot of aerodynamic appendages on these race cars, and when you have contact like that, you do lose a lot of performance. So unfortunate for Palakis, because Jaden Ojeda, who set pole position for the second race tomorrow, was one of the real cars that we would have expected to come on strong in the second half of this race.
Made it to the control line yesterday in qualifying with 3 seconds to go. He was third and put the car on pole after the checkered flag. That's for tomorrow's race. Recent race winners at Phillip Island, the sole Harold Volante Rosso Motorsport team. We were expecting to see Tim Miles this weekend in the 102, normally driven by Chris Batsios and Sam Brabham, both of them off racing in different parts of the world. So just the 101 Mercedes-Benz out there this weekend. Great to see the 888 Johor Motor Racing cars back. They were missing from the last round at Phillip Island, racing over in the GT World Asia Challenge.
Yep, that team and those drivers competing in dual campaigns this year, the Australian GT Championship and the Asian GT Championship. So weren't able to do the previous round. Running line is Astern in 4th and 5th, and don't tell me these two brothers aren't competitive with each other. They have an absolute dip when they're racing against each other.
They showed no fear. No. They went to Mount Panorama the first time. There was no lead-in. It was on hot laps from the outset. And you're right, brotherly love, it can get stretched at times between these two.
Sergio Perez in that multicoloured Audi, the Valmont Audi, currently running in 6th spot. Brad Schumacher in behind, so they've settled down after their first lap antics. They look like they've got away with that contact with minor battle scars, and that's about it.
Of course, Brad Schumacher's been dominating the AM class here with several class wins this year. Running back there in the Fuchs Kelso Electrical Audi, just behind Perez and Marcel Ziller, a couple of real characters of GT competition. This is McMillan going wide. The McMillan car was in car 48, and even though he used extra racetrack, managed to come back on in front of Rene Gracie there that had a gearbox change in the Audi last night. Missed qualifying, started from the rear today in race number 1.
Justin McMillan was on his way to Campbelltown. He was that deep on the brakes down at turn. If you don't know the layout of this greater Sydney region, that's about 50 k's away from here towards the southwest. So it was nice and deep on the brakes down at turn 2 with Justin McMillan, but got away with that one.
But does that promote having that concrete hard stand out there? Does that give you more confidence to go in, knowing there's a bit of assistance there at the track?
Yeah, it does. It does. But when you're going up the inside of someone, you do have to. You're putting a bit of faith in the driver that you're passing, that they know you're coming and they may open the steering wheel if you've overcommitted and let you get up the inside. So pick up this battle. McMillan's found his way to the back of this pack again, so having a few issues. No shortage of commitment though from Justin McMillan. Rene Gracie having a look up the inside here into turn 6.
Oh, door slams.
Certainly does.
From Mike Bailey, teaming up with Brett Hobson, as they've done all season long there. So battling down the field, of course, Gracie, the only GT trophy car in the field this weekend, on her return to Australian Motorsport down here at the turn 8 hairpin. So a long way to play out. Pit stop window, as we said, opens at 25 minutes into the race and then shuts a further 10 minutes later. So at the moment, for the drivers that were successful at the previous race at Phillip Island, they'll be trying to set fastest lap after fastest lap to stretch out the margin to their rivals within this Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia powered by AWS round. We're into the second half now of the series, and the field's continuing to grow. And of course the Bathurst 12 Hour, which moves to a later date next year. Now we've got through all the turbulence of the last couple of years, we're starting to see more international drivers and cars come out, and that's a massive event, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great event. It's a fantastic event, and certainly one that's very high on the bucket list of all the international factory drivers that race for all the manufacturers. Still very close with a lot of the Audi factory drivers, and they love coming to Bathurst. It's a massive commitment to come around to the other side of the world for one weekend effectively, but they all are more than happy to make the commitment. There's a replay of the exit of turn 1. Renee Gracie getting a run off turn 1 and up the inside into turn 2. Gets the first part of the job done and finishes it off nicely. So that promotes Gracie up to 14th.
So gearbox changes paying off there for Gracie. We jump in car with Mike Bailey down here at the turn 8 hairpin. Of course, Brett Hobson, we knew from years ago, ran that amazing Nissan GTR. But back with Mike Bailey this year. Might have a listen to this car as it makes its way around for a lap around Sydney Motorsport Park. We work our way into the 11-minute mark of this race.
Really torquey engine in the Mercedes. One of the great things about GT racing is you have such different engine architecture, and they have their own strengths and weaknesses, and the Mercedes is well known for being very torquey, lots of pull off the corner, can always run a gear taller everywhere and use the engine torque, whereas the Audi, for example, is more of a peakier engine, doesn't have the torque down low. The V10 configuration likes to rev a bit harder, so you're always a gear short, always up and down through the gearbox a little bit more. Some circuits, the torque of the Mercedes is an advantage. Some circuits, the peakier engine in the Audi, for example, is more of an advantage as well. Then you throw in the turbocharged Ferrari now that's come part of the category, the flat 6 in the Porsche, turbocharged 4-cylinder that's running in the BMW over in Europe now. So lots of various engine configurations. And even in this shot here, you've got a front engine V8 Mercedes with a rear engine, or mid to rear engine V10 Audi competing against each other. Very much similar lap time. But just a bit further up the road, you've got the traditional 911 Porsche with the engine completely in the wrong part of the race car behind the rear axle. And somehow they make that work as well.
It's a kind of category where you can sit behind a grandstand and know exactly which car is going past without visualising. So they work their way through to complete another lap in this one. So the Johor Motor Racing car just ahead there of Abu Bakr Ibrahim with Sergio Perez behind, who returned after that collarbone incident at Adelaide last year, where they found the concrete wall quite hard there. Both he and Marcel Zalou are back this year. And there's Valmont Racing car, Takani Racing helping out with the preparation of this entry. And Sergio himself very, very talented behind the wheel. He was great yesterday to watch in qualifying. That was Bailey we just caught maybe going wide there at turn number 2. We jump back in car with the 96 Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, it was. Does he just run it wide himself? He does, and Ross Palakis doesn't need a second invitation as Bailey's out in the concrete. You having a look for the Western Sydney Speedway, or the drag strip, which is down that part of the motorsport precinct here at Sydney Motorsport Park. This battle continues on, and Perez has got through on Abu Ibrahim. So second of the 888 run Mercedes, just struggling a little bit here. Brad Schumacher and Matt Stupas queued up behind as well. How does this take place? Perez just gets a nicer run off turn 5 and positions itself nicely at 6.
The 88 just let him go in the end, and Schumacher thought there was an invitation there, but access denied by the time they got down to Corporate Hill. And of course, Schumacher will be watching in the mirrors, because that's his rival right now, the KFC Audi just behind of Matt Stupas, and legendary open wheel racer Paul Stokel, who's just behind them as well. It's been a season-long battle between those two.
Yeah, there's various races within a race, if you like, for the GT Championship, and Brad Schumacher and Matt Stupas competing in the AM section. So take Ibrahim in front, for example. Jamie Wincup's going to jump in that car, so it's hardly a fair fight when you've got someone like that. So they do break it up to more of a Pro-Am and Am competition. Schumacher and Stupas battling it out for the top step in the Am standings. And those pit stop times actually apply in the Am category as well. So it's not just the first 3 cars outright that have a pit stop penalty. The first 3 cars that finish in the Am standings get that same 15, 10 and 5-second time penalty added to their pit stop time. So you can often find yourself when you're a pro car behind one of the Am cars because they've had a short pit stop, and if you've got the 15-second time penalty, you find yourself buried in the field sometimes. You go, how did that guy get in front of me? So he was stood still for a lot less time than you in pit lane. So it does make it interesting. You'll always find yourself around race cars, different race cars, throughout the course of the 60 minutes of the GT Challenge races.
And there's pressure on not only the driver, but the engineers, the team, to make sure they don't mess up that minimum time. So we talk about the top 98 seconds of changes on wherever we go.
Just focus on really good exits for me. Entries are okay, but we need to focus on getting nice and cleanly to the apex, getting back to throttle sooner. Good job.
SRO and Triple H Johor Motor Racing talking to Abu Bakr Ibrahim at the moment in car 88. They've had a busy weekend, a couple of double rounds up in Japan in the 2 weeks leading into this. So there's some weary eyes down there at Triple H Johor Motor Racing right now. But this was a plan that was going to happen a couple of years ago when the pandemic took over the world, and then again a chance to go up there and shake the tree of GT World Challenge Asia back here in familiar territory at Sydney Motorsport Park. Here is where up towards 16 minutes into this 1-hour race at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Well, hold your breath, hold your breath. It's okay, man. Brad Schumacher having a bit of a sneaky look up the inside at 5. He would have been better off actually setting himself up and executing that same pass that Sergio Perez was able to do. Abu Bakr Ibrahim just struggling a little bit. We heard that advice, concentrate on the exits, but it really does look like where he's struggling. And when the engineers say concentrate on the exit, that's really maximise getting on the throttle nice and early, driving the car, letting it flow. I think at the moment Ibrahim's just tightening it up, the exits a little bit, and not getting the best run off the corner. And certainly giving Brad Schumacher all the incentive he needs to try and get the job done here.
Yeah, but he'd be getting frustrated as well now, knowing the car behind the KFC 23 Audi.
Mate. Keep focusing on really
and also
good
the gap.
exits.
Look at that gap that Sergio Perez has opened up. That pass was a lap and a half ago.
All laps to go.
Now nearly 2 seconds up the road. Actually, Perez on the previous lap set the... Ooh, I held my breath again there. Perez on the previous lap set the fastest middle sector of the race, faster than Liam Talbot, faster than Yasser Shaheen. So Sydney local, very comfortable here around the Sydney Motorsport Park precinct. Now Schumacher needs to think about this one. We saw that he got tantalisingly close to getting the job done at 5 on the previous lap. He really needs to focus here on getting a good run out of 4, position himself at 5. He looks like he's too far back this time. Yeah, even there, still holding too tight an entry in the 5 and not maximising the exit himself. This looks like the area where you might be able to get it done. You need to start that whole sequence a little bit closer on the next lap with Brad Schumacher.
So we build our way up towards the pit stop window. This is the replay of the start of the race with Talbot and Yasser Shaheen on the front row. Everybody nice in the rows of 2, a couple of cars at the back failing to tag on to the tail of the field.
The rule is here that you actually have to run it down the grid boxes. So there's a few that may be taking a little bit of an interpretation of the grid boxes. But you are meant to run down the car down the grid boxes. So you can certainly see the first 3 or 4 rows, nice and neat and tidy. But you do sit very low in these cars as well. So often you try and get your line of vision out a little bit so that you can actually see the lights when it's time to go racing.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit generally in the back half of the field, a little bit of leeway granted.
And it has cost drivers victories before over the last 3 seasons. We saw a quick shot then of David Cranton, that beautiful KTM crossbow, and there's a change here. While we were showing the replay of the start, Schumacher has finally released, and here comes Matt Stupas to make the move in the second of the AM class cars and gets past the 88 Mercedes. Now, while Schumacher might have been cheering for a moment, all of a sudden you'll look up and there's the KFC car right behind.
That's right, he would come out of, right there, come out of turn 3, look in the mirror and go, yeah, that KFC car
still there.
Followed me through. So these two now need to get their head down. Like we said, they're in their own race. The 88 car is an outright car, so not really racing that car. When Jamie Whincup jumps aboard that car shortly, it'll come charging back on through. But Schumacher and Stupas, now the battle begins. You need to open up that gap. If you're Schumacher, you put your head down, open up that gap to nullify any pit stop penalty time. If you're Matt Stupas, you do your best and you chase as hard as you can, stay as close as you can to that rear wing of Brad Schumacher's Audi. So when the pit stop cycle takes place, there's an opportunity to get on by through the pit stops as they cycle through.
There's still 38 minutes of competition to go here. The two Audis have been released, of course, for the Johor Motor Racing cars. They will have the minimum pit stop time of 98 seconds. Let's go back to a battle further in the field. Mike Sheargold in this group of cars, and it's so great to see Mike Sheargold on the grid today. He's been battling some health issues in the recent past, and earlier this weekend, our Chad Nalon caught up with him. Come back to that soon. Well, he runs back there in the 14th position right now, teaming up with Garth Walden, these two have been a regular combination for several seasons now. But right now he's feeling the heat of Paul Achiti out there, and the GT car is going for the move up here at turn number 2. And Sheargold just says, yeah, you have that one. We'll think about that later on in the race here. Well, Talbot and Shaheen are starting to trade fastest laps here. The gap is out to 3 seconds, first to second. To work our way towards this pit stop time. It's car 888, Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. Now, there was a time where the Prince was still learning the racetracks. When he came to Australia, every time he went onto a racetrack, he was learning it for the first time.
It was. There's a shot out to the Blue Mountains, just having a look at the sky, and it's starting to look a little bit menacing down there, but you're right. Jeffrey Ibrahim, who was the first of the Ibrahim brothers to come down and race here in Australia, spent an extended time learning. He's done a nice job in this race. Finds himself only a second behind, or a second and a half behind Jeff Emery, currently third, so certainly keeping that car in the game. It's our race leader, Liam Talbot, who on the previous lap just set the fastest lap of the race, 28.8. Not too shabby at all, so Talbot doing a nice job managing this race, keeping Yash Shaheen in check in second place. The gap first to second out to 4 seconds. Oh, big oversteer through the mid-corner at 8. So Talbot pressing on in this one as well. Yash Shaheen got the flashes on for some reason, not sure why. No one coming. So made the jump this year from Audi last year into Porsche this year. It's Mike Bailey again, making his way around the back part of the circuit downhill into turn 6. Cycle our way through the rest of the field.
See Justin McMillan car that had a little excursion early in the race, running back in 16th position. At the moment, as the race settles, while the guys at the front trying to break the battles apart, it's out to 6 seconds between our first and second cars. It just needed to be 5, so Talbot, who set the fastest lap of the race, 1:28.8. On the 12th lap of the race, he's going for back-to-back flying laps. If you just joined our coverage, this race 1 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS as they enter the second round of, or the second half of the 2023 campaign. We're really starting to see some quality racing from the GT cars. They went through a bit of a period there where they were struggling to get some good numbers out there and attract good drivers, but seems to be climbing every time we go racing now.
It certainly does seem to be a bit of a renaissance for the GT category. Very, very cool cars to drive, very, very rewarding. They are somewhat intimidating if you're an AM driver to jump in, because you do need massive commitment to effectively use the maximum from the aero, and these cars are very aero dependent, so very good cars to drive around here at Sydney Motorsport Park given its fast flowing nature.
Might be used to seeing the Sheargold Walden car in different colours. They're carrying support from the Bowel Cancer Australia people here, and of course Mike's battling some health issues right now, and early this weekend Chad Nalon caught up with Mike Sheargold.
Right, it feels pretty good to be here this weekend.
Okay.
So yeah, basically the start of the year, I went for my motorsport medical for my international license, which you need to race in the GT category, and got the bloods back. And my GP said, got on the phone to me and said, "Oh, I want you to come in and have a chat." And my iron levels were really low, and we knew that I didn't have an issue with iron absorption or anything like that. So she said, "I want you to go and get it checked out." I put the colonoscopy off for 5 or 6 weeks because I had a lot of travel with racing and a few other things, but not indefinitely. And then, when I went in for the colonoscopy, got the words that no one wants to hear: "You've got bowel cancer."
So then surgery?
So from the colonoscopy to surgery was kind of 2 weeks. Had surgery on the 16th of June. Had what's called a right side hemicolectomy, so slightly more than half my bowel removed. And fortunately, we think all the cancer's gone. But my physical recovery's been really good. I'm feeling good and got the all clear from the surgeon to race. In hospital, he was saying, "Oh, I don't know about it." But I've got to shout out to one of my good friends, Rachel. She's a rehab physio. She's been working with me a lot over the past few weeks to kind of convince the surgeon that I could do it. And, went for the checkup on Monday and he said, "Yeah, right, I'll sign you off." And here we are.
You've used this terrible moment in your life to try and do something positive, which I love.
Yeah, the kind of character you can't really keep down. So we launched the N2Y GT3 fundraiser 2 days after my surgery, and that stands for Never Too Young. So Bowel Cancer Australia has this Never Too Young platform where they're trying to raise awareness for bowel cancer in young people. So it's the second deadliest cancer in Australia, but it's the deadliest cancer for people kind of in the 24 to 44 age bracket. So It's not just an old person's disease, it can happen to anyone.
Okay. And so the fundraising so far, from what I hear, has been very positive, and you've had to reset your goals to how much you actually want to make because there's some very generous people around us.
Yeah, so we set an initial target of 100K and we reached that in the first week. So I was blown away by that, and we've got all the supporters so far recognised on the car. So, did a PB in FP1, hoping that had something to do with it. Having, their support on the car means a lot. But we've reset the target to 150K. We're sitting just under 120 at the moment. So hoping that everyone can get on board and, help us push to that new target.
How can you donate?
So you can head to n2ygt3.gofundraise.com.au. Okay. You can also head to the RAM Motorsport website. There's a link there. All right, our socials, you can find it through there. So plenty of ways to find it. There's also QR codes on all the cars. The category's been amazing with their support as well. They've donated all the door cards and the sponsors position with the campaign name and the stickers for Bowel Cancer Australia and the QR code on the cars. So if you're here and you can get up close to one of the cars, use your phone, scan the code, and every little bit helps.
It's a big shock to the motor racing world when that broke just a few weeks ago, but great to see Mike Sheargold back behind the wheel, a two-time Bathurst 6-hour class winner as well in the series. They've come into the pits, Garth Tander, because the pit stop window is open.
Yeah, and as soon as the pit stop window opens at the 25-minute mark, generally all the teams act straight away. They get the AM or bronze drivers out and get the pro drivers in as quick as they can. There goes Richie Stanaway. He's away. So he takes over in the 888 Mercedes, sharing the car with Prince Jeffrey Abraham. So he is off and away again. Fraser Ross has already left. He is now aboard Liam Talbot's number 65 Audi, and Garnett Patterson has left pit lane as well. Takes over from Yasser Shaheen, the number 1 Porsche. So now the pro drivers, it's their turn to strut their stuff. And I just made a couple of notes during that pit stop cycle, Matt. Sort of noticed, I think the Porsche changed 2 tyres, the outside working tyres.
Okay.
And both the 888 Mercedes changed 4 tyres. And I don't think on the Fraser Ross, Liam Talbot Audi that they changed tyres at all, which is quite normal on the Audi. You don't usually change tyres on the Audi. It's very good on its tyres, is the Audi.
The Mercs are a bit heavier.
Yeah, Mercs, and they tend to you actually lose too much time in the warm-up phase. So it's these first 2 or 3 laps after the pit stop that in a GT car, it takes a lot longer to get the tyre up to temperature. So you lose too much time there. So that's why, particularly with the Audi, you don't change the tyre because you want to keep the tyre temperature and maximise these first 2 or 3 laps after the pit stop.
So Garnett Patterson jumps in behind the wheel of the reigning champs car, Yasser Shaheen, the Ben Motorsport Park Porsche, car number 1. Winners in Perth in the race number 1 this year. And on the podium, at all but one race this year. Great combination, of course, Garnett, no stranger to open wheel competition, and Talbot's pretty happy with the result. Remember, these two teams were at loggerheads at Phillip Island. There was a bit to say between the two camps.
It always gets quite heated in motorsport. It's funny, you go down to the garage. If we swung the camera to the left, the EMA motorsport team that run this Porsche are literally 2 metres away from where Liam Talbot was standing. So they're sharing a garage here this weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's Yasser Shaheen. Jumped out of the car after his first stint. Had a chat to Yasser yesterday, and he said, yeah, the Porsche is seriously fast, but it's really edgy. There you go. So they are literally back-to-back, the two teams battling it out for the race.
You weren't kidding.
It's Liam Talbot.
Happy with that result so far. Now Fraser Ross jumps back behind the wheel of that car. He returned to Australia after running the LMP3 Cup over in France recently. Of course, Maxi Hoffa jumped out of that to join Jeff Emery. Bit of a mix-up there with the two Audis, the two very strong combinations. Like what I'm seeing with this young guy too. Great to see him get another opportunity, Garnett Patterson. Maxi Hoffa's now the fastest car on the track. Patterson 5th on the track right now, but Brad Schumacher still yet to pit. We've got Perez and Samadi, who's, as ever, driving solo in the 22 Audi in 3rd position. Fraser Ross, of course, for a while he was driving an amazing McLaren that came out several seasons ago.
Yeah, a race against that car when Fraser was racing it. It was seriously fast in a straight line, that 720 McLaren. Fraser pedals it very nicely. He's not a pro in the truest sense is Fraser Ross, but drives very, very well for the amount of motorsport that he can squeeze in between his work commitments. And there you can see that gap, 1st to 2nd, has come right down through the pit stop cycle. So Fraser Ross over Garnett Patterson, that gap now much less. What are we saying? 1.4 seconds, and we reported before the pit stop cycle was out to 4 seconds plus. Samadi out of pit lane, and that's Brett Hobson now aboard Mike Bailey's Mercedes. That's tightened right up, that battle.
Of course, Samadi's come out now. Brad Schumacher is in. Don't get too alarmed about the smoke at the front there. That's the brakes. Have had a fairly serious workout in the first 30 minutes of the race. Our AM class leader this year in Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. So he comes into the pits in about 2 minutes roughly from Fraser Ross, with a gap back between Ross and Patterson now just 1.1 seconds, but a whopping 14 seconds back to Richie Stanaway, who's behind the wheel of car 888 now.
Yeah, but Stanaway's going seriously fast. He's set the fastest first 2 sectors on this lap. Max Hoffa's got the fastest lap of the race so far with a 28.5, and Richie Stanaway just delivers a 27.7, if you don't mind. Hoffa comes through with a 28.5. That's his best for the session, but that's some 8/10 slower than what Stanaway was able to do. So Stanaway on a charge in that Mercedes and starting to use those 4 fresh tyres well to his advantage.
That time for Stanaway is 100th quicker than George Biedecke's time set some 7 years ago. The times are tumbling here as we enter the business point of race 1 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. Another one to come up tomorrow with a separate grid to what we saw today. It'll be the Harold's Volante Rosso Motorsport team starting from the pole. But for now, it's on for outright between the Audi and the Porsche.
Yeah, Patterson's got right to the rear wing of Fraser Ross. As I mentioned, I spoke with Yasser Shaheen, who's sharing this car with Garnett Patterson yesterday, and he said the Porsche is so fast, but it uses its tyres and it's really edgy to drive. And both Garnett and Yasser had big moments throughout the course of practice. So whilst the Porsche is fast now, will it continue to be fast? Still 24 minutes and change left to go in this race, so a lot to play out. I would imagine Garnett Patterson's got one eye on the rear vision mirror. And Richie Stanaway, while it's 13 seconds down the road in the rear vision mirror, the longer that these two battle it out, the quicker that Stanaway will get to the rear of that Porsche as well. So if Garnett Patterson's going to get the job done, he needs to get the job done very quickly to try and get to the lead and run and hide.
1.3 seconds quicker last time round with Stanaway. And Patterson wants to get on with this. So they make their way through turn 5. Car 888 is just coming across the crest of the hill down to turn number 4. And seeing this track alight here, a new lap record of 1:27.5, 2/10 quicker than the lap record that stood for the better part of 7 years. Shaheen focused, looking at the screen, watching his younger teammate go after the Shannon's Insurance Audi.
What also tends to happen here, we spoke earlier about GT cars, how much aero they have and how much they do rely on the aerodynamic grip that the cars generate. When you're following closely like that, it's hard to stay close to the rear wing of the car in front because you get into that aero wash, that turbulent air coming through onto the front straight. You can actually see the understeer there from the Porsche as it got under the rear wing and behind the rear diffuser of the Audi. And you lose front grip if you're the following car. And when you lose front grip, the front tyres slide across the road surface. You get understeer. That heats the front tyre up. And then you get caught in a vicious cycle of the hotter the front tyre gets, the less front grip you have. Here you go. Does Patterson send it? Yes, he does. Oh, Fraser Ross sees him coming. Garnett Patterson, nice, strong move. Had to get that done. He really did, because if he spent a lap or so more behind the rear of that Audi, the front tyre temperature was going to go through the roof.
Suddenly the smile from Liam Talbot's been extinguished.
Liam Talbot doesn't look quite as excited as he did when we saw him 5 minutes ago. Yes, Shaheen probably looking a little bit more animated now. His car has hit the lead. We'll do Stanaway watch though. Gap first to set first. Now Garnett Patterson to Richie Stanaway, 9 seconds. So didn't seem like that. It seemed like a lap ago, Matt, when you said it was 13 seconds. Replay here, Garnett Patterson up the inside. I think Fraser Ross saw him coming right at the last minute, opened the door. But Garnett Patterson was coming through regardless. Nice job there.
This will be Stanaway, just a hint of spark from the front of car 888 through turn number 1. He's been setting lap records the last couple of laps, thanks to the 88 car through turn 1, and that's going to be the talking point now in the final few minutes of the race. The marbles, the chunks of tyre that have peeled away over the last 36 minutes of racing. And that's the end result. That's the Valmont car clearing up on the brake markers. And Marcel Zalua behind the wheel. Now, taking out one of those markers, that can play an impact on the drivers behind, right?
Yeah, it can. All of a sudden, one of your reference points gone, and it takes you a lap or two to adjust, because you do use those braking marking boards down there. They're made of polystyrene, so if you do run through them, you actually see some in the turning vanes or those front little winglets on the front of the Valmont Audi. They're stuck in there, so not only has he been for a ride through the paddock, but he's lost some front downforce because those winglets will not be working as they should.
Would he feel that?
You won't feel it. You won't feel it back through the steering wheel, but you won't have the front grip that you're used to. They're very powerful, those winglets on the front of the car. We spoke earlier about you don't want to be having any sort of body contact on an Audi. You don't want to lose those where the polystyrene's jammed in there. So some efficiency's gone. And on that side of the car, because that's the outside, as he will tip it into turn 1. That's where you want a lot of your downforce generated. You'll be hoping they blow out, but they actually, if they haven't blown out by now, they're not going to get blown out.
They're jammed in nice and tight, aren't they?
Yep.
He comes through turn number 1, so Zalua running back in 12th position. They started from 7th today in this race. They'll start from 15th tomorrow.
A little bit wide, too. You can see a bit of understeer in the mid-corner there at 2 for this car as well, so maybe those aerobatics that took place. Oh, that's one of the 888 Mercedes.
It's Jamie Whincup.
Yes, caught up with some lap traffic. What's happened here to cause that? You would not expect Jamie Whincup to have a moment on his own.
That was 5th position. We saw Mark Griffith and his old GT4 car escaping, and that might be the reason.
It's turned across the front. That's Mark Griffiths in the GT4 Audi, so it's a class car.
15 laps to go.
Just turned down across the front of Griffo, coming into turn 8.
It just gets the lapping done there, gives him a look across the window as he powers on. Now he loses that position. He's back to 6th, but some 6 seconds away now from the juice. Jaden Ojeda, who's now behind the wheel of car 101. The Harold's Volante Rosso Motorsport car is up to 5th. Maxi Hoffa just ahead of him now, but he's a long way now behind Richie Stanaway, who's back to 8 seconds between he and Fraser Ross.
Jeffrey Abraham watching on, sharing his car. Well, he's actually sharing with Richie Stanaway. So, watching on the sister car, Jamie Whincup aboard. effectively the boss of the team. So I wonder if the boss is going to give himself a talking to after that one. Just didn't quite judge the difference in speed between the GT4 spec Mercedes and the GT3 spec Mercedes that Jamie's driving there on screen.
5.5 seconds.
Now a second in the Perth race, the opener there over at Wanneroo Raceway earlier this year. That's put a big dent in his chances of a result here today. So Paul Stokel about 7 seconds away for him now in the KFC Audi, so he's leading the AM class by 7 seconds to Brad Schumacher now, so we'll keep an eye on that battle for the AM class on us today. They're in the 7th and 8th position, while Garnett Patterson has 2 seconds back to Fraser Ross. Richie Stanaway continues to eat away at that margin. It's back to 6.7 seconds now. Maxi Hoffa still runs in 4th in the J-Mac Audi car 75 that he shares with Jeff Emery. And the Juice runs back in 5th. So we still have 17 minutes and 45 seconds of racing. Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS.
Stanaway taking big chunks of time, not only out of the car in front of him, Fraser Ross in 2nd place, but also the leader, Garnett Patterson. He was around 1.4 seconds faster than the leader on the previous lap. And it's starting to get to the point where we can see all 3 cars in the one. There you see there, they're all in the final sector together now. So Patterson leads onto the front straight. The gap first to second, 2 seconds. The gap second to third, 3.7 seconds. So just under 6 seconds covering the top 3. There you are. There's our podium positions. Do they finish in that order? 17 minutes to go left in this one, and I told you earlier, Matt, traditionally these races, they tighten right up at the end, and it looks like we're going to get that in this one.
Exactly what this series is designed to do. So top 3 closed right up by 5 seconds. In fact, Stanaway set the best last sector of the race so far in 3rd. There he is through the turn 3 sweeper and across the access tunnel. 2.3 seconds the gap, 1st to 2nd.
The Audi team have missed a trick here, not changing tyres, particularly on Max Hoffa's car, given the Max factory Audi driver be more confident getting the tyre up to temperature more quickly than, say, Fraser Ross, for example, because the lap speed difference between Max Hoffa and Richie Stanaway at the moment is significant. Like Hoffa now, he's 10 seconds behind Stanaway, and in a fair fight, that wouldn't be the case if it was tyre for tyre. So I'd imagine MPC, the Melbourne Performance Centre that run the Audis, will be looking at their strategy overnight, maybe adjusting ahead of tomorrow's race. I feel like, given just how high the tyre degradation is here at Sydney Motorsport Park, just having your best tyre on at all times is such an advantage.
When you talk about getting the best out of the tyre straight away, that just comes with experience and having confidence in applying it to a tyre straight away, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't get the response from a cold tyre. It tends to slide across the surface. When it slides, when it's cold, you get a big shuddering feel through the car, but you've got to keep the road speed up for the aero to work, so it's counterintuitive. The faster you go, the more grip you have, but you don't have the confidence because the tyre temperature's not there yet on a cold tyre, and that's where the factory drivers and the drivers that spend a huge amount of time in these cars have that confidence because they're so used to it. On board here with Brett Hobson, who's ranging up, has a look up the inside into the final corner, gets it done on Brad Schumacher. Does Hobson, so that's a position for 8th and 9th, getting swapped around. And Hobson, local here in Sydney, has done a lap or 2 around here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Got a feeling it's the same issue with that air hose that's in front of our in-car camera. Yesterday during qualifying, he was trying to adjust that on the run. In the end, it fell over to that exact position. So it is quite warm here in Sydney. There's some dark clouds out in the distance. We weren't expecting that, but hey, it is Western Sydney, and storms can happen. But much warmer conditions out there than what we had for qualifying yesterday. We're racing into the night, and that's a cut-down tyre in the pits.
That's off one of the Audis. Oh, no, it's off Mark Griffith's car.
Is that from the contact?
No, that's on the opposite side.
That is too,
so
yes.
I'm not sure what's taken place here.
So Griffith's been a regular in the GT4 class on his own for a long time now. And now it's closer than ever. 2nd and 3rd. It's 3/10 on our screen, but it's visual. And now the 888 Johor Motor Racing Mercedes looms up to make the pass here at turn 2 and gets it done.
Fraser Ross not putting up much of a fight there. The more critical gap now, though, Matt, is the gap first to second. And that's 3.6 seconds from Garnett Patterson, who leads the way from Richie Stanaway, who now makes his way up into third and continues this charge back through the field. Stanaway, head and shoulders above everyone else for lap speed. And impressively, the consistency as well. Like, it's not like he's just done one 27.5. He's done a truckload of 27.8s and 27.9s as he continues this march towards the front of this race. See here, just gets a nice run through one. Actually wasn't that close through one, so probably still had some clear air for some aero. And then far superior on the brakes into turn two. Actually got it done quite easily. And there's the gap, first to second. 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, 13 minutes. Up 3 spots in this race. Ojeda running back in 5th. But a fair margin back to Max Hoffa in that battle there for position. M-Class still being headed up by Paul Stokel, and now with Hobson getting past Schumacher. That extends it out by some 11 seconds. So the KFC duo looking good here to take M-Class on us at this stage. For the second time this season. You watch Richie Stanaway go here now with some fresh air. 2.8 seconds last time around. 28.8 for Patterson, 28.3 for Stanaway.
Yeah, a little bit of traffic pollution on that previous lap for Stanaway as he was getting past Fraser Ross. And a lot of people that are watching Richie Stanaway probably only know him for what he has done in supercars in the past. At Tickford, at Gary Rogers Motorsport, and then last year sharing the car with Greg Murphy as a wild card at Erebus. But before Richie Stanaway came back to Australia, he was a factory driver for the Aston Martin GT program, has done a huge amount of driving in GT cars in Europe. So he is very much at home in a GT car, and not only a GT car, but a front engine left-hand drive GT car. So feels very comfortable in this environment and has been very fast in the Mercedes. As soon as Triple Eight bolted him into it, it's been incredibly quick.
Patterson on the flashing lights to the KTM crossbow just ahead. And Stanaway's career was really heading to Formula One land there for a while, wasn't he? A former GP2 and GP3 race winner back in 2015. And Patterson
going to wear out the flasher button. There's actually a rule about how many times you can press the flasher button on each straight line so that you don't disorient the drivers in front too much. We pros, we do like to flash the headlight when we can. So they've actually introduced a rule. I'm not sure if it's ever been enforced, but it is in the regulations. You can only press the flash button so many times down each straight.
Can it be off-putting when you're driving ahead? You do see that, or you've done enough races now to ignore that?
For the pros, you just laugh and ignore it. But for the AM drivers, it's like, oh, what was that? And it catches your peripheral vision in the rear vision mirror, and that's what it's designed to do, to be off-putting. When you're a pro driver racing against AMs, you probably don't need to be using the flasher all that much. It is, you do use it when you're coming up on lap traffic just to grab their attention. I dare say Richie Stanaway will probably be on the flasher button coming out of turn 6 here.
It's Griffith who's just returned to the track after cutting the right rear tyre down his Diamond Trucks Brisbane Mercedes GT4. So Stanaway is clear. There'll be more traffic ahead for the crew soon. There's another 4 cars and maybe a lap away now. It'll be the 48 Mercedes of Justin McMillan. They're just coming around to the final turn, so they can play a part with 10 minutes and change remaining in race number 1.
So the gap was down to under a second in the first sector of that lap, but Stanaway getting caught behind Mark Griffith in the middle sectors had that gap open out to 1.4, back into 1.2 now. So when you go in at Patterson, go, okay, that's another lap I got through where it was almost a net negative. You know, Richie didn't make all that much on me. So now the gap, 1.1 seconds. Under 10 minutes left to go in this one. Still going to be a lap or 2 before they get to any more lap traffic. So heads up racing between these two for the next lap or 2. If Patterson has anything left in the bank, now's the time to spend it. Because Richie Stanaway is going to come and steal it anyway.
6/10 quicker on the last lap with Stanaway off the track. Is Jaden Ojeda, and that's on the way up to turn 2. So it's that fast sweeper through turn 1 as he scarred the Harold's Volante Rosso Motorsport car. It's just a whole pile of dust when we came to him. And he's still in 5th. Here's the replay.
He was gone early there. And then fast. Look at it skate across. The problem with these cars in gravel traps are they're a flat bottom floor. So they effectively become a speedboat and skate across the top of the gravel traps. And just does make contact with the conveyor belt that wraps around that tyre bundle. But that could have been a very big accident if the car skidded sideways and dug in across the top of that gravel trap. You're almost flat. I was listening in qualifying, particularly to the Mercedes at turn 1, and they are almost flat through turn 1 in top gear. So seriously, carrying some serious speed there. Talking about carrying some serious speed, Richie Stanaway put away the timing screens. We can see the gap now. It's under half a second. Garnett Patterson to Richie Stanaway. Again, just on 0.6 of a second faster with Stanaway on that previous lap. To me now, Matt, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when these positions change.
Do you think Patterson can hold on? Too much time still ahead of this race.
So 7 minutes, we're looking at 4 to 5 laps, depending on how the timing screen falls when they cross the line at the end. That's going to be a big ask, given the speed differential. But in saying that, Garnett Patterson's just done his fastest first sector of the race on this lap. So, has he played a masterstroke and kept some tyre under the car and waited till Richie Stanaway's got there? Stanaway still raging up on the back of the #1 Mercedes Porsche.
Brock Feeney drove this car at the first round at Bathurst this year. They finished second in the second race with Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. Stanaway in his second start. They finished on the podium in Perth in the second race and looking for their first victory of the season. Chasing the reigning champs car. Yasser Shahin, who started the race, handed it over to Garnett Patterson when the pit stop window opened. But now the most experienced, talented guys worldwide is pulling out and thinking about turning this race alive with 6 minutes and 45 remaining.
The reason he's pulling out actually is to get air down the brake ducts. So he's giving up the slipstream effect to go faster in a straight line to get cooler air into the front brake ducts that then blows cool air. He's not worrying about cooling the brakes down, he's trying to cool the front tyre down and actually keep the front brake temperatures more under control and stop the radiant heat going out into the rim. Stanaway has a look over the hill between 3 and 4. I don't think that was a look, that was more of a fake. Now he's going to try and square off the exit here at 5 and try and shove it up the inside at 6. Can he get the job done, or does Patterson see him coming? He waits. Does he dive down in there? Patterson saw him coming. Nice job.
It's on the reprofiled corners that changed them 10 years ago. Now it used to be like a right-left chicane back for the MotoGP days in the early 90s, but definitely another passing opportunity there now. The longest 5 minutes and 45 seconds for Garnett Patterson and for Yasser Shahin, left-hand side, who watches on. They've had one race victory this year. He wants to regain this crown he won last year in Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. This guy takes his motor racing so seriously. Of course, won the Audi R8 LMS Cup back in 2019.
5 to go, 5 to go.
5 minutes to go, not 5 laps. Important differential between how we go racing in the GT World Challenge category. Patterson's done a nice job on this lap. After Stanaway had that sniff up the inside at turn 6, Patterson was able to open the gap a little bit. Stanaway's very strong on the brakes down at 2, isn't he? And he's good over the hill here at 3 and down into 4. So he makes the same fake into 4. Patterson actually does a better job there. See how he's wider on the entry to 5 to get more flow through the mid-corner here at 5, because that protects you down here into 6. He doesn't have to defend this lap. Stanaway's not closer. Stanaway has a bit of a moment on the bumps down into 6. Patterson skates away a little bit. He's an interested onlooker, Brock Feeney. Stanaway's using my car.
Picked the wrong time to be chewing his nails, I think, there. Brock Feeney. He gears up for qualifying not too far away in the Repco Supercars Championship. The Bow Repairs Sydney Super Night. We're going into the night time here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and the crowd continuing to flow in. This is a really good-sized crowd today. Main Straight Grandstand is busy. Turn #1 hill populated, and we just love racing under lights. We got to do it a fair bit back in 2021, but our sole night race of the year happens tonight with these new Gen 3 supercars. Just under 4 minutes to go. Gap is half a second. Is Richie just having to think about this?
I think, well, it's hard to know because he's actually starting to have a few moments. We saw on the previous lap, Richie, the car got away from him at turn 6 over the bumps and had a little bit of a moment. And that's where Patterson looks strong. He's got good drive traction off turn 6 for the run up the hill around the back of turn 7 at Corporate Hill. That's where this Porsche looks very strong to me. Doesn't change direction as nicely as the Mercedes here at 4 and 5, but Patterson's got a bit of a gap. And now we're starting to come up onto that lap traffic that Matt Nolte mentioned earlier. There it is, just up the road a little bit. Patterson will pop up over the hill. 4 cars that Patterson will have to make his way through. Oh, Stanaway again backs it into 6. Not quite as bad for the lap time loss, but still, that's as out of control as you want to be in a GT car on the brakes. Don't forget these cars have got ABS. But when the tyre... Oh, Stanaway, does he send it? No! That was big commitment. There was nothing Stanaway could do. He wasn't going to be able to push the brake pedal any harder. He would have been well into the ABS there. Patterson shut the door. So Garnett Patterson making his intentions known. I'm not giving you this race win with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to go. Stanaway's a lot closer, though, this time onto the front straight.
And 5 cars ahead. 5 cars ahead that are going to go a lap down. It could be Stanaway's chance, or maybe he thought we're not going to catch these cars within that 2-minute window. Through the BP Ultimate Speed Cam, into one we go again. It's going to be the Marcel Zalua car that we just up the road. There he is, just exiting in the Audi. Not the usual mount that the Valmont Racing team would run.
What Patterson needs to do here is not jump at shadows. Richie's been faking in and out, in and out, in and out of the rear vision mirrors of Garnett Patterson. You've got to defend the definitive moves and don't block fresh air. Don't block a move that Richie Stanaway's not going to make. Stanaway's nice and close here. It's time to defend down into turn 6. Doesn't need to. Good confidence from Garnett Patterson. They're going to get to this lap traffic shortly, Matt. I certainly hope that does not change what we're seeing at the moment. A great battle between these two. Stanaway had that massive look here at the hairpin on the previous lap. Doesn't do it this time around. 1:20 to go in this one.
If anything, these lap cars are catching themselves, so they might get completely caught up here. Where's the worst possible point? It's got to be out of turn 2 and turn 3.
Anywhere between the start line and the finish line. That's what Garnett Patterson's looking. Oh, Stanaway gets his nose down into some clean air. That was an important... Oh, they're both in the gravel. How about that? Stanaway was that shallow coming onto the front straight that he had nowhere to go on the exit. And Patterson, he was out having a moment. Stanaway just followed him out there.
Seriously off the road at that final turn, scooping up gravel and dirt in both their cars. Zalua now about to go a lap down. So all is not lost for car 888. Here it is on the replay. So following each other off the racetrack and just scooping up the gravel and dirt coming back onto the racing line.
So up the... Oh! So Patterson gets through. Stanaway has the door slammed in his face. Maybe that's all Garnett Patterson needs to do, but now he's got 3 cars to deal with. Patterson up the inside. Ash Samadi hasn't seen him. He's making his own move. Patterson gets another one.
It's not done. Patterson splits the lap cars up, and now Stanaway is back. So even though he was balked a bit down on this lap, he's right on the tail once again of the EMA Motorsport Prepared. Ben Porsche, are they going to win their 2nd race of the year? Or is the 888 car going to change this? What a race, what a finish this is going to be.
So next time past, we're told, next time last, next time past the line. Oh no! Patterson had a big look at that lap car, got dirty air and understeered wide. Richie Stanaway couldn't get the job done. It looked like he had a run, and now there's damage to the front of the 888 Mercedes. That's Ash Shamadi in front of Garnett Patterson. He hasn't yielded to the blue flags yet. What does Patterson do here? He sends it down here too. Gets a job done. Stanaway follows him through.
Time is running out for car 888. There's another one just ahead.
Theo Koundouris just up the road in another Mercedes. They will get to him before this lap is done. Garnett Patterson is not safe. I have to say, to this point, Garnett Patterson has done a great job.
100%.
Here we go. Does Koundouris see him coming? Patterson's got to send it. Stanaway's going to go with him.
Koundouris, the lap car here on their return to Fanatec GT World Challenge.
Look at the drive out of turn 6 that Porsche's got. It really squats down and gets off 6. Managed to, that's going to be enough to get the job done. As long as he can get off here at 8. Oh, one of the Valmont Audis has gone around in the background, the lap cars. They're still battling for position. That damage on the front of Stanaway's car, it's not too bad. Do we get through the final 2 corners? Stanaway has a big crack. He'll dive down to the inside. Doesn't get it done. Nice job, Garnett Patterson.
One of the best Fanatec GT World Challenge races we've had. And it's going to be a win, a hard-fought victory, and their second win for the Ben Motorsport Park Porsche. Give it to Garnett Patterson and Yasser Shahin and a thriller at SMP. That was awesome.
With 13 minutes to go in that race, I would have bet the house on Richie Stanaway, but Garnett Patterson stood up tall in the seat. He had to battle that traffic. Have a look at the front of Jaden Ojada's lawnmower. It's full of grass as he holds off Jamie Whittaker. Geez, that had everything, that one.
If there's not a temperature light going there, I'll give it away. What a finish in race number 1. Garnett Patterson wins with absolute maximum pressure from car 888 behind. Lapped cars having their own race, and somehow he gets it done. I said before, I can't say enough about this guy, and what a find to have him back in GT racing alongside the reigning champ, Yasser Shahin. But they're going to do it again tomorrow, just like that. Garnett Patterson, 0.3 of a second at the end of the first Fanatec GT World Challenge race from Stanaway, Fraser Ross, Maxi Hoffa. Jaden Ojeda home for 5th with plenty of grass in the front of his Mercedes. They'll start from the pole tomorrow. Jamie Whincup, after contact with Griffo during that race, will finish home in 6th position. M-Class being wrapped up by Paul Stokel and Matt Stupas today. Back there in 7th position. What a race, and safety car free. Phenomenal. Congratulations, the number 1 Porsche. They picked up the victory here. Not these guys, but the brand back in 2018 on our last trip to Sydney Motorsport Park. They'll be back tomorrow morning here as part of Bow Repair's Sydney Super Night. But the action continues after the break. It's race 2 and the top 9 reverse grid race for the V8 Super Utes. A big field of 21 have made their way up. We love coming to Sydney. It's our first stop. We'll be, of course, back here for Mount Panorama later in the year. Come and check it out one day. Plenty to see and do. Time for a break, but when we leave here, we're heading to Myo Hood, the Bend in South Australia, and the big one, the Sandown 500.
The 2023 season started with a bang.
Oh, in the fences, Van Gisbergen. Paint's gone off.
And now we're past the halfway point. There's bound to be fireworks.
We're going to have to roll before the ticket, please. You've got to be kidding me. That's completely wrong, man.
Next up on the Repco Supercars Championship calendar, we are heading to South Australia.
OTR Super Sprint, 18th to 20th of August.
Big things happen here. Then, Enduro season is upon us as we head to a track steeped in supercars history.
Penrite Oil, Sandown 500, 15th to 17th of September.
More action.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone.
More entertainment.
Oh, his teammates wrecked it for him.
You won't want to miss this. Tickets are on sale from ticketek.com.au.
Supercars unforgettable.